fucks up.
What was that? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.
Hello, weirdos. Are you out there? Are we coming in clear? Let us know in the chat room section. We are doing some test runs with the Weird and Whatever podcast. This is the second one we've done in the last week. And yeah, there's going to be some problems. There's going to be some issues. We appreciate your patience. We appreciate your candor. No, actually, we don't like that. I'm kidding. I love it. Okay, guys, let's just jump right into it. Weird and Whatever podcast is back. Now, the awesome, very talented Vicky, she had a investigation she did over the weekend. Was it last weekend?
Yeah, Saturday.
The floor is yours. Tell us what you were doing. It's a serial killer investigation, no?
It's the location of where the serial killer lived. And before we went there, the client had done some research to find out that the Orange Grove killer of Titusville, whose name is Bernard Giles, had lived in that exact trailer park in 1973 when he went on his killing spree. And one of the bodies of his victims was found 800 feet behind the trailer park.
Ugh.
Yeah, so it was the first time that I actually investigated a location for a private client that had something like this involved in it.
If you live in a trailer park and you're doing it right, you hear this story and go, come on, dude, really? Trailer park, murder? You're making it bad for all of us.
It's like, why feed the stereotype?
Exactly, because I've known plenty of people that have lived in trailer parks, some of the nicest, most awesome people on the planet.
Right, but this was back in 1973 when he lived there, so I don't think people had the same kind of preconceived notion about trailer parks and things like that back in the 70s.
That was like a VW bus era where it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Are you trying to tell me the 70s they thought trailer parks were sexy as shit?
Well, I don't know if it goes as far as sexy, but I know when I was a kid, we had friends that lived in a trailer park, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because you had your little area in front where you could plant your flowers and your trees, and everything was just all compact. It was like living in one of my Matchbox car worlds, so I loved it.
And it seems like a trailer park and tornadoes, they always seem to meet. Why is that? There was a tornado in Palm Beach Gardens, which, by the way, Palm Beach Gardens don't really ever get tornadoes. It hit one area. The smallest trailer park in Palm Beach Gardens. What the shit?
Well, it gets good news because if it bleeds, it leads. We talked about this on media, and it could go over a brand new CBS house with maybe roof tiles, whatever. But it's like that movie Twister with the trailers moving up in the air and gets good ratings.
You do wonder the narrative of things. Me and Denny's talk about this all the time. It seems like the media dictates what we talk about at the cooler at work. No?
Yeah, 100%.
Vicky, thoughts?
True.
Yeah, I would third that.
Thank you, Denny's. Denny's is trying to act like he's engaged in the conversation and scramble behind the scenes with the technical shit.
Oh, yeah, I just shared it on the Facebook. And
we
the
love
Twitter,
you, kid.
All that fun
we
stuff.
love your talents. We love what you do.
Didn't that start with that famous broadcast? Which one was it? I don't want to misspeak because I'll get made fun of. Where everyone thought that the aliens were invading on the radio.
Oh, damn.
Now, dog, are you being a dick now?
Is it 1984?
No.
You're talking Orson Welles.
Orson Welles.
So I swear to you on everything, I literally sent Denny's the prep today, and the last clip we were supposed to do was the Orson Welles War of the Worlds,
1938.
because this was a big deal. This was such a big deal. We've talked about it before. Back in the day, people really loved the radio. The radio was the medium people got everything from. Orson Welles, if you don't know this story, was a writer, a director, an actor. He did all this shit and wrote this radio play and put it on the air as entertainment. But people did not know it was entertainment. They're driving down the road. It's like you go in your car right now, you're getting eggs for Thanksgiving, and there's a thing on the air. Virginia's going, oh my gosh, Kev, the fucking aliens are coming. Shit, Rocco, Magnolia, we're all going to die. And you think it's real. That's what this was. Can we pull up that clip? This is a taste of what we're going to end the podcast with. But the fact that Mr. Beckett brought it up, let's taste it now.
Was that War of the Worlds?
Yeah,
Yeah.
War of the Worlds.
1994.
This, by the way, this is the clip right here that sent people into a fucking frenzy.
Panic, yeah.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmas Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
horrifying, Peter.
They used to let things breathe back then.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're right. Oh my God. 7 seconds, guys. What
All
the
right.
fuck?
Just calm this.
Ladies and
computer
gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmas Garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks for the automobiles, spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
And people went ape shit, Beckett.
You can appreciate why they would.
Now, Vicky, hearing that in modern day times, not so horrifying. Yes? No?
No, I don't think so. And I think the first thing everybody would have done is picked up their phone and Googled it to see if it was really going on live somewhere. So it wouldn't have lasted for more than 2 seconds of people believing it.
Which is kind of crazy because that's how much things have changed. There are people alive that went through that. And now, Vicky's right. No one would buy that corny shit because of Google.
Well, so the original medium was radio, then you had television, then it became internet. So, I mean, each one becomes the most believable one at the time.
And every one of them has been crucified, saying it's the devil. You know, I always go on rants about how I don't like social media and how I think it's kind of bad. That's my personal opinion. Yes, I can recognize there's some good things, but not everyone can play with those good things nicely, Beckett. They go after radio, they go after TV, and then people say, well, this is just the way it was in the past, Bird. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Vicky, but the other thing that I would counter Vicky's opinion is that there are some crazy things that people believe nowadays that are definitely and definitively not true. I mean, there was a group of people waiting in Dallas for JFK to show up like a few weeks ago. So sometimes just because you can easily fact check information, you can also get verification on something that isn't true.
Yes, but the people who believe that and were waiting for him did not want to actually fact check. That's the difference.
That's fair.
Some of this stuff that's going on the internet, people don't want to find out. They want to believe the negative, and they don't want to seek the actual truth.
Have you ever been in a situation where it's a shitty situation and it's bad news you're going to get, but the situation almost lends for your bad news to fit your narrative? Like Vicky's saying, these people want bad news. They don't want to figure out it's a hoax because then they go, oh shit, I'm stupid, or it doesn't support my theory. I know I've been in situations in my life where I've accepted the bad news, and now I'm dealing with it, and the bad news doesn't come.
Like the end of a relationship?
Yeah, I'm almost disappointed the bad news didn't come.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally
like a
makes
bad
sense.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Vicky brings up a good point. People don't want to research.
Right, and it takes 2 seconds to pick up either your phone and call someplace or your phone and Google something. Even like the example of when Prince died. Someone came to me at work to tell me that Prince had died. The first thing I did was go on the internet and check multiple sources to make sure it was actually true before I went into my morning.
So one of the biggest critiques we go to the podcast is that we go on these crazy rants and we don't get back to the... I'm letting y'all know we do rants, but I do want to bring it back to Vicky. I want to know more about this whole serial killer, the trailer park, all of that.
Bernard Giles, who currently is still alive, he's incarcerated. In 1973, he raped and murdered 5 women. And he was 20 years old at the time. He had an 18-year-old wife and a 5-month-old daughter. At the age of 6, he was playing a game with a neighborhood girl, and he was straddling her and strangled her. And if you watch interviews of him, he said he just knew, just as casually as I could say, I knew I was going to Jaybird's house today. He said, I knew I was going to murder one day. If you watch the interview, he has no affect. I mean, no feelings, nothing, just as cold as you can possibly imagine.
In your opinion, watching that, do you think he killed before?
I would say that he had more victims than who were accounted for. And it's funny you say that because after we investigated the actual trailer, we walked through the woods to where we approximated the 800 feet would have been where the one victim, her name was Carolyn, where her body was found. as we went to, you go through the woods and then there's a nice little park. When we got to the park, I was drawn back to the edge of the woods because I heard someone call my name. And they said, "Vicky, help me up."
Was this a female? Was this
It's
a
a
male?
female. It was a female.
Young voice?
She seemed fairly young. So I went over to where I thought the voice was coming from, and I psychically, no, I did not physically see her there. I psychically saw a woman who was buried from the waist down. But from the waist up, I could see her. She was reaching her arms out to me, and she kept saying, "Vicky, help me up, help me up." Then we walked away from that location, and I got a name, which is extremely rare for me to get a name. So I'm actually going to ask anyone out there who's into research, who may know something. This would have been, the time period would have been, he was caught in 1973, so I'm going to broaden the search from, say, 71 till he ended his killing spree in November of 1973.
Now, the one thing people listening are going, all right, Vicky, how many victims did he actually have?
Right. So my question is, I already looked at the time that he did the killings. There were 5 women that he was connected to that he killed. He got greedy, so he would try to do doubles.
Was he convicted of the 5?
Yes.
Okay.
So he tried to do doubles. And when he tried to do doubles, the girls ended up getting away because his gun jammed, and that's how they were able to catch him. Now, if this Shelley exists, at the time that he was killing, there were 11 to 12 missing girls in Brevard County, which is where Titusville is. I went and looked to see if any of the missing people had the name Shelley or Michelle, because Shelley could be short for that. I couldn't find anything, and most of the missing women from that time period were actually accounted for, either their body or they found them alive. So I want to shout out to anybody who might be listening to us from Brevard County that may have had relatives. My theory is that the Shelley is a real person. My theory is that nobody reported her missing. You know how parents have kids that run away and they think, oh, they're run away, good riddance, and so forth. I think that Shelley was a real person. I don't think she was reported. But if anybody can find me a Michelle or a Shelley somewhere in the time period, I'd say go back to 71 all the way up to November of 73. And if they can send me some information, I'd be grateful. They could send it to contact@pointparanormal.com. And who knows, maybe there's a relative of somebody named Shelley who disappeared in that time period.
I love it. I think it's great. I mean, we talk about the cold case situation here in South Florida. It's really alarming. My gosh. I mean, I think it only goes back to so many years where they can't even keep the accurate records. But let's say from 1960, Beckett, so many people. And I feel that the Everglades is just a cesspool of where...
Oh, there has to be so many bodies in there.
Well, a lot of people don't realize here in South Florida, we're talking Miami, the Keys, all the way up to Palm Beach County, back in the late 60s, 70s, into the early 80s, the motorcycle gangs down here, they ran wild to the point where police did not realize, they didn't think they could get them all. It's kind of like the whole gang wars sometimes. There's so much of it that they feel like,
it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what was I know that's what was going down here in the 70s and 80s. And I would love to talk to people who did live in the Broward, Dade County back in the 60s and 70s. Do they remember a very prominent motorcycle gang presence? Do you remember that at all?
No, I don't.
And you probably would know, because I think it was more of the underbelly, low budget bars, drug world,
Right.
And then they would kind of converse and then kidnap and do the kind of like the sex trade type stuff.
Right. Well, to your point, do you guys remember? It wasn't all that long ago when ValueJet had a plane that crashed in the Everglades, and they had GPS. It took them forever to find it. It was so far down in the muck. This was like a 737 plane. It took them forever to find the ValueJet.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that one. What was that one? Is that the same?
It just disappeared.
Is that the same jet about 7 or 8 years ago? It was.
Yeah, it was like 8-10 years ago, I would say, and it crashed in the Everglades. And
It's sunk
technology,
so
they
deep.
know where it is, and they were like, just went away.
I thought there was another plane that was in the air
Malaysia.
Yeah,
yes,
the
that's the
Malaysian
one.
plane.
Yeah, they
And
can't
they
find it.
don't
Didn't they
know.
have 2 that disappeared from there?
Yeah, they had
It's
2
two
Malaysias.
2 random ones.
Am I off on that with the Malaysia? It was in the air, and they don't know what the shit happened to. It's just gone.
That just made us realize that I don't know this is probably a random fact that we know a lot about close space than we do our oceans. And there's a lot of, Google has a whole project where
That's
they're
what they
mapping the
say.
oceans.
Yeah.
And the oceans are so deep and so vast. And it was an area, like not off the coast of New York or Florida. It was an area, Malaysia, whatever. And they looked for debris floating. They found nothing from the plane.
I just feel like sometimes we as humans, we think of everything as A, B, and C. We were taught this as kids. Ghosts aren't real. Monsters aren't real. Your imagination's going to get the best of you. And I agree to the most point there. I mean, I think there's a lot of shit that's made up. But do we really know it all?
No.
Do
No,
we
definitely not.
really know what's going on
No.
in our own atmosphere, in the ocean? You know, we always bring up electricity. It was always there. We just mined it out of what we're living in. What else out there is like that? Why is it just electricity that we just mined out and that's it? We just call it good, just electricity. There's fuck. You're wrong, bird. You're not seeing ghosts. You're not seeing anything. It's fake. It's in your head. You drink too much. You smoke too much weed.
They
Vicky-
find all new
oh,
sorts of things.
Yeah,
Just even, you're saying mined electricity. They find all sorts of new elements that they turn into power. So there's a lot of stuff they're still creating new elements.
We
too.
fast forward 300 years from now, and we figure out there's a technology that brings up all these ghosts that people have been seeing, and it's commonplace. Ghosts have talk shows now, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. There was a movie that always blew my mind called What the Bleep Do We Know? Did you ever see that movie?
Yes, I did.
Quantum physics.
No.
It absolutely blew my mind. And the thing that I took a lot of things from that movie, but one thing that really blew my mind and I continuously think about, it would be extremely arrogant and cocky to think that 1,300 years, 1,000 years from now, that it wouldn't be just like how we look back on old civilizations, like the Romans, extremely smart, and they thought of the pagan gods and different kinds of things that we look back and we're like, psh, can you believe they believed in all that stuff?
Yeah.
But we would be ignorant and arrogant to think that 1,000 years from now, they would not think that about what we actually take as solid fact.
For sure.
And as soon as you have that zoomed out perspective, it really, I think in a healthy way, makes you question everything.
Yeah.
Look at that. Sounds like the Weird Whatever podcast has opened up Mr. Beckett's horizon.
For sure.
Remember the skeptic fuck?
Oh, yeah.
And sitting next to the psychic, he came in with the whole War of the Worlds thing before you had it. So I think some of my psychic abilities
Dude,
are
that-
on too.
I know no one's gonna give a shit listening about that because they're not gonna understand. But the War of the Worlds is a very big deal to me, and we talked about it a long time ago on the podcast, and no one gave a fuck about it. And one of the things I love to do, it's very cozy for me. I love to turn off all electronics and put the candles on and then put War of the Worlds or old-timey broadcast radio shit on. It just makes me feel
That's cool.
as if I was back in the time where that's what they did.
Yeah.
I get that it's dorky. I get that 99.9 people would ever do that. But it's a cozy thing for me. And the War of the Worlds, learning that as the first thing I ever learned about in journalism, it was a big deal. It always stuck out to me. It's aliens, it's theater, it's writing, it's freaking people out, it's confusion, it's historic. And the fact that you brought that up and that I took so much time to edit that clip out today is very bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is
and I know
bizarre.
no one's going to give a fuck about that, but it is weird.
Well, to Vicky's point, maybe I'm starting to buy you. People ask how do you become more of a psychic or how touching those abilities. I mean, maybe part of it is just becoming more open-minded to it.
Yeah, it's probably the first step.
And maybe it's not, oh, I'm going to know when my dad dies. Or maybe it's not, I have this psychic ability of I get this job or don't. Maybe psychicness is just something that you tap in and it's just a way of living, whether it's about feelings of, I knew Beck was going to order that ham sandwich, or I knew Beckett shouldn't have gone in that room.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How often does it happen? It's one thing with Instagram's looking at you, but it's another thing when you're getting ready to text someone that you hadn't spoken to in a few weeks,
It's
and then they
odd.
call you.
It's odd.
And you're like, the chances of those kind of incidents happening, and that's what I've qualified. You probably heard me say this on the podcast. As much as I've been a skeptic, as I've become older, I've had plenty of experiences now where it's too coincidental to be coincidental. Like if you just really had a scientific black and white mind, the statistics would blow your mind at the coincidence of things that happen.
And sometimes we will repeat anecdotes or stories here on the show, but we do have a lot of new people coming in constantly. And I want to thank everyone who shares the podcast. Our last numbers last week were really, really good. So congratulations to you guys. You guys nailed it. But yeah, I always go back to my mom. I was very close with my mom. I had a friendship and a mother-son relationship. And I've been around the puppet show long enough, seen the strings. Now, I know not everyone has those kind of relationships with their family. I did. And my mom and me had a relationship where I could tell her anything. And this is the month, or this is the month my mom passed away. In fact, November 24th, this is the week she passed away. She died during Thanksgiving. I think I talked about this a little bit last week. Not to depress people, and it's not depressing. It's really not. Thanksgiving, I will always. This week will always be a tough week for me because this is the week that she was on her deathbed and died. But I also think my mom loved Thanksgiving so much. I feel like she's giving me certain, I don't know, signs, messages. She's coming into my dreams recently more than normal. Now, is that my subconscious, Vicky? Is that just me wanting to talk to her? There's been years I didn't think about her during Thanksgiving. I mean, I thought about her, but not like this year.
But if you wanted to talk to her, she picked up on that energy. And so she, especially if it's dreams, that's the easiest way for her to communicate.
Go a little bit deeper on the dream stuff, because I feel like we don't understand dreams, and I feel like we dismiss dreams.
Right. When we're in the dream state, we're not busy denying that what we're experiencing is real or not.
Great point.
And that's the key to people experiencing paranormal activity, whether they're waking or they're sleeping. So it's simply a matter of when we have calmed ourselves down, when we are open to those messages, it happens in dreams. It's just much easier.
Now, Becca, I know you've talked about your grandpa, who you were very close with, passing away. Do you get dreams with him still?
Not really. I have dreams every once in a while. When I have dreams, they're like exceptionally vivid, but I'm not like a big dreamer. He comes into my dream every once in a while. It's more of like if I'm throwing baseball, like there's certain things that like trigger my memory.
Little Field of Dreams at that ass?
Yeah. He used to mute the Reds games. A big Reds fan in my family. We were up in West Virginia. It was the closest sports team, professional baseball. And he used to mute the TV and listen to the radio announcer. Because the radio announcer would paint the picture, give the fun stats.
They always said that the radio was better.
Kind of goes back to my whole theory about radio back in the day. I love old school radio.
During
It's
coronavirus, a bunch of podcasts came out. They were doing the old theater radio. It became a giant sensation.
Yeah.
The way I think about that is think about it through Melina and I. We either saw it in person, or someone had to tell us about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or in some societies, they had the written language. So our imagination had to be robust to absorb, oh, last week by the water, so-and-so did this and whatever. And we had to imagine that in our head. So when you hear like someone that's a Harry Potter fan and then they see the movie, they're like, Harry Potter wasn't supposed to have light eyes. That's not what I had in my imagination when I read all of the J.K. Rowling books. So I think when you go to radio or a book, that's more of how humans evolve, because of course TV and broadcasting is a relatively new technology. So I think it goes back to how we've evolved. It's interesting like how our brain, we actually put it in our brain, and you have a radio announcer, it's way more important to kind of like paint the picture.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, absolutely. That's a very great point. I think Becca's got a lot of great points.
Well, can I bring one other point?
Yeah.
I've been wrestling with.
Since you were complimenting him.
So I've kind of
hold on. Not to interrupt you, but did you knock down a button to show off some titties?
Oh, I got a little warm.
Put it back down.
It's so cold outside in Florida.
There's a girl who's in love with you.
I go Italian?
Take it all down. Lily in the chat room is just all about that.
Was she backing me up on Bitcoin?
we're gonna get to Bitcoin because one and a half people
Okay,
were
that's enough.
annoyed that I interrupted your Bitcoin conversation. So fuck.
I'll make this quick. So what I've been wrestling with is that, I'm big on language. When you say someone died, it's tougher for me. Like whether it's my dogs or my grandfather, like in a weird way, I always rephrase it and I say, oh, when someone passed. So I'm just curious how you guys think about that, because dying sounds so like blunt and harsh to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you bring that up, because now we have what we call a debate in vocabulary. And I think this is a problem with so much of the world where, and this is such a benign level, because you're not really offended if someone says, I died. If I say my mom died, you're not triggered by that.
Right.
But for me, it doesn't bother me. So that goes to the point where it's all about vocabulary and some words are going to be more offensive to you when they're not to me. And it always goes back to, well, who's right or wrong? And I just feel like sometimes we fight, or we get in so much discussion about words, what this word means, what that word means. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's kind of a subset of the conversation there. You're saying, don't say die, dead.
Yeah, because like the extreme example, just to make a point, if they were talking about a loved one or my dogs, they're like, oh, did your dog croak? I'd be like, screw you, you asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
There's a
negative-
bedside manner. There is, but also bedside manner and vocabulary is very regional too.
Right.
If you're up in where Kevin grew up, and someone said, yeah, man, my grandma died, or my grandma croaked, some people are just not going to be offended by that.
100%.
And I think sometimes we get bent out of shape with vocabulary when at the surface, croak, die,
Pin's
dead.
mightier than the sword, though.
What? Say this again?
The pin's mightier than the sword.
Well, a doctor a day keeps an apple away. I think English is wrong. No, I love it. I think it's great. But yeah, Vicky, what are your thoughts on that? Beckett brings up a good point.
Yeah, for me, I am, because I taught, reading and English. For me, I try to say past, because to me they're passing from this life to the next one. Whereas they died, I'm not offended if someone says that, but to me, I think of like a plant that I forgot to water and it no longer exists. It's not going anywhere else. So I prefer to use past.
And here's the tough time sometimes when you're hosting something. I agree with y'all. I would always use a pass for myself. Would I be offended by dead? No.
Yeah,
But
I'm the same way.
We have to. We got to ask the question, kind of like, well, what if they do say pass? So just know sometimes I pose questions.
Yeah.
Just to get the conversation going. Also, go fuck yourself if you don't like it. With that said, I think it might be time for some
Denny's Random Facts.
Now, our sweet Denny, he's been very quiet today because he's been making sure our shit's working, and we love him for it. We love him.
He's getting ready for a big segment.
That's right. I got to warm up so I don't pull a muscle.
He gives a slew of random facts. Vicky, our educator, lets everyone know what the grade should be. Is it an A? Is it excellent? Does he deserve the excellence? Or is it an F? Does he suck? Denny's, the floor is yours, and we love it.
Excellent. Well, let's see. I actually pulled this one specifically for the bird. Did you know in 1830, ketchup was actually sold as a medicine? It was prescribed out by Dr. John Cook Bennett. And all he really did was take what ketchup originally was, which is a mixture of mushroom and fish, which is kind of gnarly.
Yeah.
That's what originally ketchup was until he added the tomato element to it and started selling it as an elixir that cures diarrhea, indigestion, jaundice, rheumatitis. And he had a salesperson, Archibald Miles, who made pills out of it. And then later they marketed it as a condiment, a health condiment, and it, originally its origins start in medicine, though.
Well, I can tell you this shit. Hunt's still tastes like fucking medicine. I get an amen on that.
I don't know anyone
Amen,
that buys
Chevrolet,
that.
amen.
There's no one that buys that.
You're more of a
No,
Heinz
it's not.
guy?
Beckett, the fact that you even have to ask that question, get out of my house right now.
I've seen
Hunt's-
people leave restaurants because they got Huns.
Really?
Beckett,
Yes.
I'm about to go on a 8. Count it. Just give me 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Tell me when to go. Tell me when to go. Oh, all right, 3,
Go.
2, 1. Hunt's is the fucking worst, Beckett. It's terrible. Nobody eats it. The only person that does eat it is the Hunt's family. It's shit. It's garbage. It's tomato paste. Nobody uses it. If you use Hunt's, go fuck yourself.
People hate Hunts, man.
Really?
The fact that you're shocked by this
Yeah,
is
it's-
shocking me.
It's
a common debate.
I'm a big Heinz guy, but I guess I don't
Vicky,
really
it's
ever buy it.
bothering me so much that he's so clueless about Hunts.
I know.
Thank you, Vicky.
Do you
I,
like
I mean,
Heinz?
when they have buy one get one, it's still there.
Boga.
I mean, what does that tell you?
One amen in the chat room that Hunts is shit. Guys, get it together in the chat room. What the fuck? All right, Denny's, as you were.
That one was an A, by the way.
Yeah, that's
no.
an A. That's an A.
Funny though, isn't it funny? A lot of the stuff like your Coca-Colas, your Pepsis were originally digestion aids, herbal remedies. They were all weird stuff like that. Dr. Pepper, all that stuff. Even Mountain Dew. It was all originally for something, and then we just. Funny enough, and
Same thing with the internet. Like you can think of a lot of things. Like it was like their intended purposes get right.
You're right. They get skewed. But when I was young, you would have one soda maybe a week.
Yeah.
It was just not a common thing.
Really?
Yeah, Bird. I know
You-
Bird
wait, so-
grew up a little differently.
Wait, how many sodas a week?
Yeah,
That was common?
like one. A 12-pack would last us a
You tell
month.
him my truth, Denny's?
Let's say 2 different experiences, but it was pretty uncommon, especially in the mornings, to drink Pepsi or something like that. Now it's so commonplace. I see everyone drink soda all day.
I mean, I love it. I'm drinking soda right now.
All right. Second fact.
Hear that, Denny's?
Yeah, I hear it. I know you love soda. When I
do.
met you, I was shocked
It's
at how
weird.
much soda you drank.
That's a legit thing. People will send me a personal 6-page email. Bird, soda is so bad for you. You're killing your one kidney. Your teeth are gonna rot. You stutter. I'm like, guys, it's nothing to do with stuttering. Soda has nothing to do with that.
One of my first interactions, 2007, that first apartment that you were living at, the
Yes.
first time we ever investigated, we're sitting there, we have the cameras, and we look, he's asleep. He reaches over to a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew
Yes.
and chugs it in the middle of the night.
I'm familiar with the move.
And if anyone has a problem with that, email Kevin Ralston. Tell him you don't like that. I stopped doing that, and I'll tell you why. Because it's terrible for you.
Mountain Dew is a young person's drink.
I actually can't. It's so weird. I quit soda about 3 or 4 years ago, and Denny's will tell you it was a big deal. And if you notice, if I'm drinking soda on the air, if you see me drinking soda, there's something in my life behind the scenes that I am just stressed out about during Grimsley.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of soda was consumed.
It's like your poker tell.
It really is. If I'm drinking soda, Bird's fucked mentally.
Did you guys know that if a female ferret does not have sex for 1 year, they'll die? They produce so much estrogen in
we
their...
know Ralston's not ferret.
Yeah, imagine if this happened to people. But yeah, they produce so much estrogen that it causes them to get anemia if they don't have sex, which causes their bone marrow to start producing red blood cells, and they die. It's just a weird thing. They have to reproduce constantly. Female ferrets. Always be, doing it.
Yeah, Vicky looks pissed.
I'm just going to give you a freaking F
Oh,
for bringing up my lack of personal life.
That's your
Next.
That's your first F.
That's the very first F.
F for ferret, man. It's rough though. What a rough life. All right, let's see. This one's for the Beckett. Steve Jobs. He used to relieve stress working at Apple by soaking his feet in the company toilets. It was a thing he started doing when he worked at Atari, the company before Apple. In fact, they commented in a recent book about him that he was not very hygienic, and they would make him work at the night shift because his body odor was so bad, and they thought his practices of stress relief was so weird. Weird, but that's how everybody's got their own stress relief.
I like that you keep saying weird. That goes with the theme of the podcast.
Yeah.
Vicky,
Kind of
thoughts?
ties in with the extra weirds. Did he ever say why?
Never said why. It was part of his stress relief. He would sit on the top of the toilet and stick his feet in the toilet bowl and flush it and just sit there.
Sounds like he was high on pot.
People gotta stop giving pot such a bad rap. You don't smoke pot and do what they did in the 80s.
He's
movies,
big enough.
where you go.
Yeah. No, that's Confucius. Confucius saying, "Man who stand on toilet, high on pot."
Oh, that's a thing? Oh, okay.
They call it
It's a pun.
Gotcha. I apologize.
He probably had his own private toilet, though, don't you think? Your Steve Jobs.
He would
at
go to the
Apple.
company ones and do it. He said sometimes he'd
Really?
call people in for meetings into his own room, and he would go and do it. They think he did it as a control thing because he was known as such a genius that he would do things to put people in uncomfortable positions. That way, he had the upper hand on them. It's a common technique.
They said that about Manson too. They said Charles Manson would. Are you saying he would not?
Steve Jobs used to make people feel uncomfortable intentionally.
Yeah.
No, it's part of his technique.
It's a super interesting technique. This isn't political at all, but I found it really interesting. Larry King had a show with Donald Trump years ago, and Donald Trump was saying about how he gets the upper hand in something, and he was Larry King was leaned in with his suspenders.
There's a whole ton of things you can
like
do.
he usually does, and Larry's like, well, for example, and then on the side he goes, oh man, Larry, your breath's really bad. And Larry King gets kind of red and sits back. He's, I'm just kidding. That was just an example, And so, in the pickup artists, they have negs where you go to the hot girl, you don't pay attention, you pay attention to her friend.
You say a backhanded compliment,
Exactly,
something that
yeah.
implies that she's not the greatest.
It's interesting the psychology behind it.
There is, so that was a part of his things. But yeah, they thought it was weird, just a random thing about a genius man.
Well, I was between an A and a B with that one, but with the extra stuff and the psychology behind it, I'm going to go with an A.
I love it. Denny.
You redeemed yourself for the ferret.
So the next ferret fact, I'm
Ferret.
gonna skip it. I'm gonna go to a different non-ferret fact. Let's see here. What do you guys think about this? Again, another thing. As we get older, we just get smarter as a society. They used to use crocodile dung as contraceptives. They found documents from 1850 BC that referred to contraceptives made out of crocodile dung, and it was because it contained high levels of alkaline, which is kind of an ingredient in modern-day spermicides, so it technically could have worked.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, Crocodile Dung does not make you want to fuck.
Well, so
I'm out.
I thought that was so
You're
weird.
croc blocking me.
I thought that was so weird. I looked up other random contraceptive misconceptions, and I guess women in China 4,000 years ago used to drink mercury to prevent pregnancies, but it would cause mercury poisoning, as we learned. Women in North America would you get preventive contraceptives by soaking dried beaver testicles in a strong alcohol solution and then drinking it.
Oh my god.
And then there was a popular theory for a long time. This was a common theory that if you aimed in a certain direction and sneezed violently enough, you could unpregnant yourself.
Well, I mean, we're olden times, dog. They were drowning witches and fucking.
That's what I'm saying, man. Some crazy stuff. Thank God we don't do that.
But it's so crazy how we think right now.
That's weird and
well,
crazy.
but we are this. Obviously, we're the smartest we've ever been, clearly. But we have to learn. We're gonna look back in 300 years, 5,000 years, if we're still around. Can you believe we were doing podcasts?
Right.
Well, so people are asking what other kind of poop for contraceptives. The reason they used crocodile was because they were Egyptians and they had the Nile there with the crocodiles. So that's why they use crocodile dung. I don't know if other dung works. Maybe anything high alkaline, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a wooden stash Dave goes. What other poops might have worked? Other people had to test other shit out, literally.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, well, at least we know the crocodile is high alkaline deuces.
It's always with the drugs too. I'm gonna lick a toad. What else were you licking before that?
Right.
You wonder how that situation occurred.
They
probably went to eat it, and they were like, holy shit.
Well, you weren't one for one. You just didn't grab a toad, lick it, and go, fuck, we got high. No, you licked a goat's butthole. You licked a gar's, I don't know, taint.
Yeah.
A gar is a fish. Right?
You're talking alligator gar. That's a random-ass fish to bring up. What do you guys think about this? There is a town in Canada named Dildo. The origination of the word dildo for the title is obscured, but they're thinking maybe because the town, its location, it had a lot of rowboats, and it's a facet on a rowboat, actually. It's called a dildo, where the two oars go into that you can pivot off of. The other one is that they're thinking it's somebody's last name, which was spelled Dilldoe, and then over time they just changed the name to straight up just regular dildo.
You can change so much these days. They know what they're doing and they love it. No?
Oh, yeah.
They love it.
So, yeah, if you go to Canada, you can visit Dildo Canada.
All right, Denny's. Vicky, what do you think about that?
And that was D for dildo.
Oh,
for sure.
shit.
Yeah, that
So
was
right now,
lackluster.
Kind of like is that a C level?
He's
right?
at a C average. Yeah.
You
I
get
think
one
that's about
more.
what I am.
You got one. more.
He's good with
That's kind
that.
of what he's
I
shooting
go
for.
for the bronze. Yeah, I mean, all the statistics are
He just
lining
wants to
up.
be on the podium.
In my house, you were a C student in high school. Great job, Bird.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Give us one more. And on something sexy. Sexy as shit.
Well, so we talk about the Mandela effect. Did you guys realize the phrase "elementary, my dear Watson" was never ever even spoken by Sherlock Holmes? That phrase is a combination of a monologue he did talking about how elementary it is to solve crimes and a reference he made to Dear Watson once. It's a completely made up thing. It's one of those weird Mandela effects for some reason. Secondly here, did you guys...
Oh, boy, man. That's not good. Vicky looks pissed. I think the audience is...
I only brought it up because we talked Mandela effects. I thought you guys liked those things. Did you guys know what hashtags, the original term for a hashtag is?
Pound.
Before pound. It's actually pound was... So when hashtags, the first time it was ever used was by Bell Labs when they made telecommunications. They used it for the pound sign. Before that, it was an unclaimed symbol.
Kind of looks like tic-tac-toe to me.
It's the correct
Right,
title
so
is
I mean,
it's
it's that fact. It's breeding some shitty Beckett jokes. We got a
Yeah,
laugh.
that went south
Oh,
for sure.
oh,
Yeah.
shit.
You know what? Just out of the fact that you were trying so hard, I'm just gonna give you a C, so you maintain your C average.
Dude,
There you go.
awesome.
Give it up for Denny's.
C for crocodile.
I tell you what, that first fact though,
Solid.
it was awesome, Denny's. We're giving you shit. Don't send me emails that were mean to Denny's. We don't give a fuck. We
No,
love
I'm
'em.
getting a crocodile.
We love them. We love them to death, actually. The one thing I think that is a pretty cool clip, we've got an expert talking about some AirBNBs. Have you ever? Is that where you guys stay at usually, or do you guys do hotels, motels when you're out?
Holiday Inn.
It depends. If I have like a couple friends going, I want a couple rooms and a kitchen because it's a weekend, like a bachelor party or like a group of friends or whatever. Like I think you go Airbnb.
Well, I've been sitting on this email for a minute. She sent it to me probably about 6 months ago, and then this story dropped. I think either yesterday or today. We have the audio, but this is what Jane said. There is shady stuff going on in the Airbnb industry, Jay Bird. They cover up shady behavior. I found a secret camera hidden in my bathroom. I had been there for 3 days. Who knows how long they were filming me? When I complained, they told me to leave. When I pushed the issue with a lawyer and the police, they claimed there was no camera anywhere. Police said they couldn't find anything. Case dropped. It was creepy. So then this story drops today. Here's a security expert explaining how to find hidden cameras in your hotel room or in Airbnb.
First thing you're going to want to look for is devices that are conveniently placed where a creeper would want to look. Take this fire alarm for instance, it's placed right above the bed. Now one way to see if a device is a camera is to shine a bright light at it. If you hit a camera lens, it's going to give a bluish reflection. Now this clock is mirrored, but if we shine a bright light at it, we can see through the glass and see there's a camera there. Now this technique can also work on two-way mirrors. So the camera is USB powered and the wall charger it's plugged into is actually also a camera. If we shine the light on it, you can see that little pinhole in the middle with the blue reflection. That is the camera lens.
Yeah, people are saying it's normal to have cameras in there, but and I might have edited that out of the email because it was a lengthy email. She found a camera in the bathroom, and I don't think you should have a camera in the bathroom. Although I guess you assume there's cameras. I personally assume there's cameras everywhere I go, even in the bathroom. I don't think that's cool. I think that's terrible. I don't want you seeing me in the bathroom. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. In the bathroom's big deal.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to.
But like by the door, entry coming in.
I think you could have it all throughout your house.
That's fair.
Because people party like crazy there.
Yeah.
Well, I got a few other emails from people saying that there's stuff being covered up, meaning there's crimes that go on here, and then all of a sudden when you go back to investigate, there's no, almost kind of, there's a cleaner in this business, just in the industry of the whole staying at someone's house. And I can see how you could clean that up pretty. There's definitely cases out there where there's not enough evidence to support the bullshit that went down.
Well, I would assume she reported it, and that's when they knew to go and take everything down. So if you suspect that's happened, don't say anything to anybody. Just go to the authorities, and the people don't have time to disconnect their cameras and things like that.
I always check every hotel I go into. I remember a news report a long time ago saying those same things, to always shine the lights and stuff. I do that every time I go into every hotel room.
Okay, but if you check into a motel or a hotel and there's no signs around, which there never is a lot of times, you assume you're in a private situation, no?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's fucked up if you're getting filmed during that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and if you are at an Airbnb, there should be signs that say that. If you're going to the bathroom and you're a woman, hell, if you're a man, you're going in there. You're taking a dump. No one wants to do that. How could you poop in peace if you know you're being filmed?
I
Stage
don't
fright.
think you can ever have a camera in the bathroom. So if they're doing that, they're clearly doing something wrong.
So that is 110%.
Yeah, I don't think
there's no
you're
way
allowed
you
to
can
have
win
a-
that case.
No, I don't think you can have a camera in the bathroom. I think you can have it in every other room of the house, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, but I think you should also report it to Airbnb, because like Uber, it's one of those peer-to-peer things, and if you flag it with the actual company, like Airbnb itself, and put it in the reviews, that's detrimental.
Way worse for them.
Way
If
worse.
you call them, they're going to go clean it, like you were saying. They'll
Yeah.
go take everything out
And
of
I
there.
think that's what happened.
Yeah.
You got to like tear them apart in the comments.
There's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah.
shady shit, especially in the beginning when that stuff first started off.
Well,
there had
that's
to been.
Dude, the convenience was there. Everybody was going because the prices were so low. But I thought it was crazy
I
when
did too.
Airbnb first came out, and even Uber, until it became more commonplace. I thought it was a very intense
Well-
practice, because you're going somewhere you've never been. Somebody could eat. You're in their domain.
This is my house. I could easily whatever I wanted to do. You would never know if I'm setting up some bullshit Norman Bates style in my bathroom. How the fuck would you know that? You wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
it makes me think, how many times in our lives have we been filmed in a very, I'm talking creepy situation, not where you're out walking, eating ice cream, you're in the bathroom, the secret, seedy bullshit. Is it under 5? Is it over 5? Is it 20? What do you think, Vicky?
Oh God, you hope it's low, right?
Yeah, but
But
you know, like for me, like I typically stay in hotels, and honestly, I've never bothered to check because I figure if you see something, you get what you deserve. Seeing me, but like the Airbnbs creep me out anyway, just because of how do you know how they're being cleaned? How do you
Yeah.
know, like the sheets on your bed? These people haven't been sleeping on them for 10 years.
That's what I'm
and-
saying. It's crazy.
Okay, this is such a cozy trip. I'm laying here watching my TV and a blanket full of semen from some guy I have no idea. Ew.
Oh, the
Yeah.
loads everywhere. The
Yeah, bring the black light.
Yeah.
well, definitely. That's what you get when you pay for a hotel. You're getting hopefully not that stuff.
I just feel like if I had to do a percentage, and I hope I'm wrong, just of all the
You hope it's
hotels,
less than 3.
I'm hoping that I've slept in less than 19% of secret
Oh,
dirty
you know
loads.
it's more than that.
You think I've laid in more than 90% of dirty loads? Fuck.
What people forget about are the blankets and
The comforters are the
and the
big
comforter
culture.
stuff, yeah.
Oh,
So the comforters get changed maybe every 4 days or 3 days?
That's not great.
Well, supposedly, like Hampton, they actually advertise that the entire bed is stripped.
So, but
every single
everybody
time.
that doesn't advertise that's clearly
Yeah.
not really doing it.
Do I know everyone that works at Hampton? No. How do I know they're... Nothing against Hampton. I'm sure they do
It
great
just takes
stuff.
one disgruntled employee.
Dog, it's all it ever takes. Anything, every industry, no matter what you're doing.
Restaurant.
I don't care if it's the most purest thing on the planet. There's one fucked up person that's gonna screw it up.
Yeah.
One insect damaged so much grain.
Oh,
Denny's.
jeez.
You can't keep anything pure. That's not a pessimistic statement. That's a realistic statement. I'm a positive person, but there's 15% of the world that's kind of fucked.
Oh, dude.
Little off, little pervy, little weird.
Yeah.
I'd say the stat for sleeping on semen and the stat for eating food that's been messed with, all those stats have to be semi-high. Not like extraordinarily high, but they're probably in like the 15 to 20 percentage.
You don't want to think the world is such a dark, scary place until you go out into the world. No, I'm being serious. Though. You don't want to think everything is so grimy and everyone's a pervert. The internet makes you think everyone's fucked, man. It does. Me and Denny's watch those. There's so many videos
Like
of
Peeping Tom.
peeping toms, guys that are trying to pick up 12-year-old girls, where they're doing their own Chris Hansen style. But these dudes,
Vigilante Justice goes out and busts them.
these dudes are clearly thinking they're meeting up with 12-year-old girls, 12-year-old boys. There's a lot of these fuckers out there, and you want to act like it's not. Now, what's the percentage of overall people versus what you're seeing on the internet? Because everything's glamorized. You're only seeing the cesspool. So really, how many is it out there? But I'll tell you what, it's enough to go, there's some fucking weirdos out there, man.
100%.
Yeah, the
man.
number is higher than you probably want it to be.
Yeah, and I don't want that number to be high.
No, that's a number you want low.
But fuck, man, there's some creepos out there.
People are so brazen too. When you watch them get busted, they stand their ground for so long.
Well, because they're caught and they feel like this is their Hail Mary. It's either flee or fight.
And the embarrassment makes them act so irrational and insane. It just looks bad. I mean, that's how you know somebody. That's what when you see somebody lying and you see somebody not lying. I feel that as humans we can pick up the difference between it. So say like just your spouse lies to you or something like that, and you're like later in the day you're like, that was weird though. Why would she? And you think about it again. That catches your attention because we're designed to catch that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like I can catch when somebody legitimately feels bad about something or legitimately does not feel
tries
bad.
to spin out of everything.
You can just feel it. You're just like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing yourself.
The one we've gotten to a fight about this before because Virginia will go on the air. A women's intuition knows it all, and then I'll fight back with, no, it's not a women's intuition. It's a human's intuition. We all have an intuition, a gut feeling that I know I've ignored before and I've also listened to before. This is not a gendered thing. This is a human species thing. It's built into us. Sometimes I feel like we just know certain things and you have to follow that instinct. And it's when you kind of disregard it or ignore it is when you kind of get fucked. No?
Well, yeah. But, so you'll ignore something 3 or 4 times, and then ultimately it surmounts into something, and you're like, oh, darn, I should have seen the signs. What was I doing? Blah, blah, blah. But the signs were there.
It's real.
So a lot of times, I mean, your gut really doesn't steer you wrong. If you feel weird about anything, there's usually – otherwise your body would just feel normal. You wouldn't have that feeling.
And if you're feeling weird about something, almost kind of like, I shouldn't be doing this or I shouldn't be here, whether it's real or not, that's saying get the fuck out because your spirit – is not aligning to the situation that you're in. Am I saying it's so great that the heavens are going to open up to you? No, but there's a spiritual conflict there.
Yeah.
That your body's telling you, get the fuck out.
That's interesting. So that's kind of like the clairvoyance or like the psychic ability sometimes you tap into, like even in that instance, like whether it's business. Remember I was all broken up about that breakup I had a couple years ago, and then Vicky, I was just starting to get to know her, starting to become more of a believer, and I brought in a picture, and she had to wait till she saw me in the studio to tell me because it wasn't anything good. Turns out, I didn't know this till months later, she was on point, accurate about it.
Here's my thing, though, with all this shit. You asked Vicky all that stuff because you knew in your heart and soul something was off. Your gut was doing Vicky's job. You wanted confirmation because... For whatever reason, there's confusion there.
Right.
It happens all the time. We get 98% of the emails we get, everyone knows what they want to do. They just want validation of you're doing the right thing. Your spirit knows.
Yeah.
You just don't want to deal with the drama and the bullshit and the fuck. I got to sit down and talk, and it sucks.
I 100% agree with you, but in that scenario, she actually almost had me believing her. And then when I went to log on to her computer to check in for my flight, her message chat was up. And she promised me that made me feel like I was crazy.
Yeah.
She was so concerned about
who
was talking trash about her.
Again, though, you already had those Vicky, am I off? You already had the feelings. He needed confirmation.
Yeah, I have readings all the time, and I will tell the person about, like the picture, and then one of the things I typically say, you already knew that. I go ahead and do my thing by showing you that I know it by looking at the picture, but 99.9% of the time, they already know.
Just mic drop on
That's
their
part
ass.
you don't want to believe it, though.
Well,
either.
that's where I think we all get in trouble. That's where I've gotten in trouble. There's things I know in my heart, my soul, my spirit, and whether you want to be polite. And this is not just about relationships. This is about business or a situation you want to talk to a friend about. Just, you know in your spirit that it's not jiving with you.
Yeah.
And my spirit's going to be different than Vicky's or than a Beckett. What my spirit aligns with may not align with a Denny's. But I think a big part of all of this is understanding and knowing your spirit.
Yeah. And acting on it.
Yeah.
You have to act, and the more you act on it, the more you're going to get that confirmation that your gut feeling is correct.
I think a lot of times we know the answers, man. I think outside forces fuck us all up. It's why I'm against social media. Look, I'm not dumb when it comes to all that shit. Yeah, social media's got some really cool, fun things. Do I think the cool, fun things outweigh the bad? I really don't. People call me a dinosaur all the time about my stance on social media. I don't think it's heading in the right area. Spiritually, maybe for clicks and views and money and all that bullshit. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. And divisiveness. But when it comes to the spiritual deficit that I feel like humans have in modern day times, I don't think it's the right way.
No, I agree. Anything that makes you way too external focused rather than focusing on anything internally is, I think, a recipe for not good things as it relates to civilization.
It's tough. Me and Denny's talk about it all the time, how social media is something we fucking hate doing, but we have to do it for work. And I think we have to, it's tough to put the genie back in the bottle, but I do think we have to look at some things with a new set of eyes and go, I think we're getting it wrong. I don't know if this is bringing people together. And maybe that's not the ultimate goal. What the fuck do I know? I mean, I like the idea of bringing people together. Denny's thoughts?
Yeah. You wonder, they're talking internet too, man. You never know what'll happen with internet too. I bet you it's going to be way more restricted.
Denny's got a theory. We might have talked about it before.
I saw an article too. Even they were talking about it, that there's going to be a possible internet too, where they come out with a new internet, all banking, all school stuff, education stuff, all is moved to that. And then they leave the cesspool of internet one behind. You have to access it through
you really have a great flowery way of talking about the internet and why we would want an internet too.
Well, because I think when they originally came out with it, it was used for universities, I think, to send information to each other. Then it was used by the military to contain information and send it to each other. It was all for instantaneous information transfer. And then some dicks figured out that you could connect video games to each other and you could chat through email, right? So then they started really focusing on that. And I don't know if you guys remember the pioneering days of internet, but it used to have nothing on it, and then slowly just became the most amazing place because there was no rules for it. The government they didn't feel like dealing with it yet. They had no idea what it was. Originally, it was just a source of information, right? Then a bunch of people started putting wrong information on there. So then they started coming out with things like Wiki and stuff where they would have fact-checking, citations needed. And we kind of, over time, have added the social elements to it. And then we had pretty good internet. I thought everything was cool. Until we put it on the phones, and then I think that's where it all changed. I think
convenient.
Having it so available, because you used to have to go home, you'd have to split internet with 4 other family members. It was a whole thing. If you had to use it, you had 40 minutes, and then somebody else would jump on it. It would take up a phone line. People hated you when you used the internet. So it's a whole different game.
Right when the picture was almost downloaded, someone got on the phone.
But no, right now. But Denny's is right. A major problem that so many people don't want to admit: porn is so readily available.
Very easy.
It's ruining relationships. I'm not against porn. I fucking love porn. It's great. Too much of anything is a good time, baby. You're desensitizing yourself and your feelings. What used to get you off does not get you off anymore. And if you're in a relationship and your schedules aren't jiving and you're wondering why she's not horny and you're not horny, and I'm not saying that's everybody, but there's a problem with this. It's growing in relationships, and if people don't talk about it, they're fucked.
Well, you wonder too, and just a theory, that maybe the government was like, give Americans porn, give humans porn. You know what they do? They're less violent. They stay to themselves. We have less people being made each year. It all helps out in a lot of senses.
Could you argue it is less violent?
I would think so. Because all right, so I don't know, 1910, you live in a town with 40 people, right? And that's it. That's it. Unless somebody passes through, that's the only people you see.
40 people and a couple cows.
So you have your schoolyard, right? And you have some kids, and maybe each generation in town gets slightly larger. But sometimes, man, they'll even have 2-family towns where it's pretty much just 2 families been living there. There's a couple other families, but for the most part, they dominate it. But you don't see anyone. So the only people you could ever hook up with, unless you leave, is people in that town. Now, say you do something embarrassing, that town remembers that forever.
You shit on the cow. There's a cow festival. You're like, look at my kid, you shit on the cow.
You're cursed in that
accidentally.
town. You're not fucking anyone. I'm sorry. Like everybody. So that now your
Not
chances
even a cow
there,
back yet.
your chances there are rough. You have to either move somewhere else or do something else. But you don't have the means for getting money. It wasn't like it is now, where you can just start up a company on your phone. You know, you can't do shit like that.
He's right. Think about
It took a lot of work to do anything.
Well, think about trying to just meet somebody back in the day before the internet. I mean,
So people used to go out and spy on people changing. They used to go and probably attack women. I'm sure there was pent-up aggressions. People used to go up to common places. They'd have the theaters where you'd go to, or porno shops, which then they would develop seedy connotations. The reason porno places don't really necessarily have seedy connotations now is because it's so commonized. It's a regular thing now.
The counter argument, if this was a debate, someone would say, well, Dennis, you're wrong, because all of this has really desensitized us. We're watching more violence. We're watching more sex. And it's making us not realize that this is wrong. It's almost kind of normalized.
Well, I mean, we normalized violence through television forever. I mean, through our entire existence, even if you read the Bible, the good book has a lot of violence in it. Violence is a big part of, and then we chastise sex weirdly, which is, it's odd that we don't allow sex, but there's a lot of violence.
Well, I think the reason why
Good point.
Deep-seated with prudity.
The reason why people do that with sex is because sex literally can change the course of not only your life but a family's life. If you're a 14-year-old girl and you have a family, and then you care about your daughter.
Overexposure, I mean, you could say to an extent overexposure to violent stuff has caused people in general to become more violent. Has it caused a pandemic or an epidemic of violence? I mean, what's to say? Now what's to say porn has done the same exact thing for sex?
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably, to an extent, it probably has increased some numbers, but I think it's also decreased some as well.
But I think the internet is only as good as its user.
Absolutely.
So-
That is a true statement.
Good point.
Anything that you have, the person who is using it is responsible. Just like all that research I did for the investigation, I would have had to have gone a whole day ahead to Titusville, gone and seen which newspapers, but I also had to discern which ones were true. I mean, they were the real microfilm or microfiche, whatever it's called, and they showed me the actual article from the Orlando newspaper or from this newspaper. And again, it's all about like all the stuff that's out there that's not true.
Yes.
If you choose not to be a responsible user and fact check it, then that's on you. That's not on the internet. That's on you.
For sure. Just driving cars. I could kill so many things with my car today. I could go crazy, but I'm not going to because I'm not psychotic.
Exactly.
But that's a super powerful machine I got right there. In the Roman times, I could devastated Caesar. But that thing right there, everybody drives around all day without even thinking about it. Sometimes listening to podcasts or radio while they're driving. They're doing two things. It's a dangerous thing now. Like you said, it's all up to the user. Is the user going to use the car inappropriately?
It's a complex issue because the internet now is so interactive to where it's not like, I get what you're saying. It is up to the user, but now the user that we're talking about can get other people involved so quickly, quicker than it ever has in the history of time. Brittany in the chat room, I love it. Brittany, we love you. We miss you. She has a comment that I really strongly disagree with, actually. Now, if this was 10, 15 years ago, I would say Brittany's got a point. She says, porn is usually directed towards men, though. Not anymore, Brittany. It's just not. There's so much porn available for everybody, whether you're a woman, whether you're into threesomes, it's out there for everybody. In fact, there's porn directly just for women now. And that's my point. It's so prevalent to you hit a button, whatever you want is pretty much there now. And I don't know if that is a good thing. You have to do responsibility with what you do with your own life. But this is the same thing you say about drugs, alcohol, the internet,
driving your car.
everything. You have to take responsibility for your own shit.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
So I think the government's just having a hard time figuring out a way to keep people responsible on the internet. So I think they're just going to burn it down, start an internet too, put banking, put all mobile shit, put all social medias on it, and then people are naturally going to transition over to it. And I think they're just going to leave the old one if people want to fuck with it.
Wild West kind of a thing. It's the 8 tracks of the internet.
Vegas.
Mikey, what
It's
do you
like
think of
Vegas.
that?
It's
Do
like
you think-
Vegas of the
Do you
internet.
see them doing that?
I think they'll do that. They're gonna probably build brand new servers that only run the new internet.
I think it's going to be at a point where you do have the sleazy internet, and people are going to say free speech, but you're going to get to the point where you just can't say anything you want on the internet anymore. It's going to get to
It's
that
gonna
point.
become like television, radio,
Yep.
like music.
It's like how it is in China.
How
Yeah.
it's everything.
If you're doing a broadcast and you don't want people saying fucking terrible things, you're gonna be able to. And you can do that now, but it's gonna get to a point where you're not gonna even be allowed to do that.
Maybe they make 1.0 like a bar. You got to be 18, 21 years old, or you have like an age thing to like participate in. You have to be an adult basically to participate in the 1.0.
If I was gonna guess, I'd say they'd make new servers that they're gonna put the new internet on that are gonna be so fast, and they're gonna leave the old ones however they are. I bet you an independent team of people are gonna get together to try to upkeep it, and then I bet you that's how it's gonna be. It's gonna be an independently funded server.
Now, some people hate when I go to the chat room to get their opinion, but I don't give a fuck because it's an interaction show. Angie from Hollywood says, porn is targeted to anyone that's interested in sex. And I 100,000,000%
Which is
agree with
everyone.
that. Yeah. Yeah, women back in the day were shamed to want to get their fuck on. That's why they didn't watch porn.
Yeah.
It's okay to watch porn now. And let me tell you, women are watching porn.
Oh, look at the sex industry. I actually think women have a little, in my humble opinion, a advantage on the sex toy department. Like in terms, like there's not great sex toys for guys.
You don't
There's-
love the Fleshlight, do you, Beckett? I think it's not that good.
I've never had it.
It's not. It's.
Yeah, I mean,
not my favorite.
The girls have the rabbit and like all these other things, and you know, a lot of my friends that are girls definitely participate in porn. You know, one of the things that I've reflected on myself is, does porn take you away? Because like certain kids play basketball like Kobe because they watch him on TV. Certain people want to join the Navy or the Air Force because they watch Top Gun. So when you watch porn, does that kind of percolate into the bedroom where you're more like naughty or more like that, instead of like you kind of go away from, I think my generation, we kind of gone away from the lovemaking and intimacy a little bit, more for like the dirty porn genres and
The
you know.
straight.
I feel like I feel that porn can be a great tool for people, just like alcohol or marijuana or whatever. I think you can exercise too much. I think you can smoke too much pot. You can eat too many donuts. There's an excess where there's an imbalance where it doesn't work anymore. I always bring up a couple situations when it comes to the porn thing. I knew two really good friends. They were in very serious relationships. Both cases, they had opposite schedules. So one would wake up in the morning, watch porn a lot, do their thing. By the time they'd get together to connect, they're basically tapped out. And if they weren't, they had to act like they weren't tapped out. And if you aren't careful, especially in a relationship, and I'm more talking relationship stuff here, you know, if you're single and you're watching a bunch of porn, whatever. I just think you just got to be careful. That's all. That's it. Again, I'm not against censorship. I like when people, even if I don't agree with their stance, I think anyone's got the right to say what they want. I also think if you say what you want, everyone has the right to say what they want back. I think, to Vicky's point, if you can play with the toys nicely, play with the fucking toys nicely.
Yeah.
Just not everyone can. And when not everyone can, it starts to mix into all of society, and you get a weird fucking thing going on.
Yeah.
Great comments in the chat room. Great comments from the panel, as they say. A couple other things I would like to talk. Did we get into the? We didn't talk about the atheist that turned spiritual, did we? I thought this was an interesting story. We get a lot of emails from atheists. We have a big atheist, I guess, number, Denny's, when it comes to listeners here.
I didn't see him on the pie graph.
There's a guy named Melon Benedict. Now, he was a big-time atheist back in the day. He talks about this thing called purification. They're two 35-second length clips, so your patience is needed. We'll delve. First one, purification, Denny's.
The eighth chakra is the ultraviolet chakra. And that's the chakra of purification. That happens when you finish your life review and you go to the light, you pass through what's called the 8th chakra, which is purification, because there's nothing in this world that you could ever do that will taint the oversoul, that will taint your soul. Nothing you will ever do, not even Adolf Hitler was tainted once he went through the light. And that's why the more you resist giving up what you might call darkness, the harder it is to get to the light. I know, I was one of those. I was stuck to my darkness until I learned to forgive myself and forgive my life and love my life. In fact, I came back praying, I love my life, I love my life. And when my caretaker found me on the floor, I was talking in a low voice, and she said, I put my ear to your lips, and you were saying, I love my life, I love my life.
Now, that was an atheist who did not believe and then had a near-death experience, Vicki. Now, we've talked about life reviews before. What are your thoughts on that life review? Is that just a human-made thing, or is that a real thing?
I mean, there are people that have reported experiencing things like that. I think, but that clip reminds me of, I've always said the difference between a skeptic and a believer is one experience. So he went from an atheist to a believer because of one experience that changed his whole outlook on everything.
Now, he has another clip that I thought was pretty cool, too. He claims when he died, he got to talk to God, or whatever you would call God. It was that light. They always talk about the light, and it was interesting to hear him talking about it. He said as he felt, when the beginning stages of it, he felt lost, scared. It was dark. He didn't know what was going on, and then he realized kind of fighting what they wanted him to do, kind of like not going towards that light. He said once he started to do that, he noticed people going in, people coming out, lights going in and out, almost kind of like, you can come to wherever this next level is, or you're going back to do some work, and maybe that lends again to that whole life review that I'm anxious to see, my life review. I hope it brings up that Puerto Rican base hit. We played Puerto Rico. They were such a great team back in baseball. My dad came to this baseball game, and I was supposed to play, and I ended up getting a base hit. My dad got to see that. I want that in my life review. I want to see my dad smile.
That's awesome.
I want that.
That's awesome.
But do you just get the bad shit in the life review?
I mean, what I've been shown is that if there are some negative things that you didn't learn when you were here, you're going to have to go to what is shown to me as a classroom to go review what you should have done, and then you're allowed your freedoms. So once you're allowed your freedoms, you can spend it over there. You can come back here, which his thing about the lights coming and going totally fits in with that theory of what I've been shown. I think that you have to deal with the negative first, and then you have to deal with all the positive when you can go and connect with loved ones, or come back here because you have loved ones you still want to take care of.
So you're basically saying, for my highlight reel, I'm not getting the Puerto Rico base hit. I'm getting, Bird, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Now we deal with the Puerto Rico hit.
Only if it's major things. I've only seen that people have to atone for major things that affected other people's lives, and they didn't have the right to do that to other people, is what I've been shown typically.
And that's a good point, I think. I think for some people, that, and I don't know, maybe that cat didn't have a bad life. I don't think you're a bad person if you just don't believe in God. I just don't. I think some people believe you're a bad person if you don't believe in God. I do not think that at all. I think this is a complex situation that we're in. Earth, being born here. What the fuck is this?
Right.
But it is weird to hear so many people have that experience you talk about and then just change. Almost as a knowing. Not even just an opinion, but a knowing, which is tough if you haven't been through it. This last clip, Denny's, is the one where he talks about, when he talked to God, why are humans always so dark? Why are we always feeling like it's the end? We're so desperate and down and out.
Gloom.
Yeah.
I was rescued by the light, taken to the light, and like any good atheist that stands before the light, I immediately knew it was God. My first question to the light was, why is humanity so dark and doomed? Why was this ever created? At that moment, the light breathed me into it. And suddenly I found myself in a mandala. Is the only thing I can tell you it looked like, an endless mandala of living human souls, of all the human souls that had ever existed. And in that mandala of human souls, I could look into every human soul. And in that, I could see no evil, no darkness whatsoever. And then I was shown my soul. And there was no darkness, nothing that I suspected. It was not there. It was all an illusion. And in that moment, it was like an atom bomb went off. And everything that I ever knew was obliterated. And then these souls gave me life again. I had never received such love in my life as I received in the mandala of human souls with the light.
Okay, so it sounds great. I think we all want this shit. Even the atheists, or even people that, oh, fuck everything. You kind of want it to be cool when you die,
Yeah.
right?
100%. 100%.
Does he sound like he's full of shit, Vicky?
No, it actually ties into, I've said this before on the show, Native Americans believe that our time here on Earth is actually hell. And so the way he's describing his experience with the other side and how everybody here is so doom and gloom and over there it's so different, that really ties into that Native American theory.
It is crazy how we as a species obsess about so much that just does not matter. I'm telling you this right now, and I know most of the stuff that I worry about does not matter, and yet I'll still obsess about that. What is that?
That's us being flawed humans stuck here in hell.
The human condition.
Dennis, what are your thoughts on that? What is that? I mean, anybody that even says, nah, bro, I got it all figured out. I don't stress about anything. I'm Tony Robbins on steroids, man. I got the Gandhi gene. I'm peaceful. Do you believe that fuck?
So it depends. So I tend to find that people that legitimately do feel that way usually are a person that struggled at some point and then they found something and they're spreading the good word because they're so inspired by how it changed their lives.
But do they really feel that way, or is it just smoke and mirrors? Are they faking it till they make it?
I think some people will use that same style to get a group together and exploit them, you know? So, I mean, there's people that I think legitimately have an experience, like you're saying, and then they want to share that, or they find some secret, you know, I did this and it helped me, I want to help other people. But I think a lot of people, man, it's snakes, oil salesmen, man. They take one great thing and there's a bunch of people that try to use it negatively.
It's a tough place to want to be very spiritual, but also being very paranoid. It's tough. It's a very tough place to be. It's kind of like I always talk about. It was a very tough place for me to still want to be playing with toys and still a little kid, but then having feelings of being horny and masturbating.
Right.
It's like I'm a little kid, but I'm morphing into it. What the fuck is this? It's weird. It's weird to, like, I want to be a spiritual person, as I think we all do.
Yeah.
And there's moments where I feel spiritual, but then there's times where I would have Turkey Beard Dan in the chat room. I believe he's a self-proclaimed atheist, and I give him a hard time all the time because, you know, sometimes you can have, oh, that's not fucking real. But there's a part of me that identifies with a Turkey Beard Dan because there's mornings where I wake up and go, I don't believe. Am I abnormal for that? Vicky, you're a person that I've seen ghosts. I've had spiritual experience, and yet doubt still creeps in. Why is that?
Because you let society creep in. I think if all of us, and you've talked about it before, about your affection for trees and nature and things like that, I really think if we all spent more time with the earth and ignored all this, you know, societal BS, then I think all of us would be more spiritual and it would be a better place. Unfortunately, human beings, we just have this desire to get more, to be more, to make more money, to buy the latest of this, that, and the other because of what people are going to think. But we all need to go. I'm going to Colorado, and I'm hoping I'm going to have this, you know, epiphany when I get there that, you know, this is like what life is about, these mountains.
The old traveling out to the woods. I have all the answers. Fuck yes. I beat life trip. I went on a couple of those.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to, hopefully.
I love it.
We'll find out.
That's so awesome. I think we just go to the urn a little confused, and maybe that's the thing we take away. It's okay to be confused.
100%.
Just knowing that we're going to go to the grave, the urn, whatever you're not going to have the fucking answers.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept, but that's the game. I don't know, Denny's.
Yeah, I think just everybody feels like there's a prize or something at the end. I think that if you accept that you just have good moments and bad moments throughout the course, there's never a pinnacle of any sort of good or bad. I mean, there might be some lower points, but
There he is.
I think if you don't feel that you're expected to have something like that, I think you'll be much happier.
There's that
you're not
balanced fuck that I
expecting-
love. It really is about balance. Karate Kid was right the entire time.
It is a balance. There's probably no point. I mean, some people might. There's always exceptions to everything, but for a majority of people, you're gonna never quite get to whatever that super duper goal is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, Jay Spades says
Not
in
to
the
be-
chat room. She goes, to each their own. Fuck yeah. As cliche as that is. I mean, you get to a point in life where you go, this is weird. I'm trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, it's so it's probably one of the worst cliches we have, but it's a cliche that's the worst one we have because it's so true and like so important to focus on the journey and not always the destination. That's why I think people end up so unhappy, is they're always looking for fulfillment in that next job promotion or that, trophy wife or that next paycheck or whatever. And like, you shouldn't try, at least. It's a worthy altruistic goal to try to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I think the hardest part for us as humans to figure out is it's always, and this is always going to be the truth. It's always about right now.
Yeah.
It's literally the only moment you have. And we're always either thinking about the past or ahead in the future. Never our minds on the moment.
Right.
Some people can do that, but that is, there's books and classes you have to fucking take and practice to stay in the moment. Very hard.
I started putting my phone on silent when I'm out to dinner or with a client, because that incessant buzzing, I'm like, oh, there's a client that needs me, or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I'm going to look this person in the eye for 30 minutes. I'm going to be engaged in this conversation, and I'm going to do my best to not look at my iWatch or my phone and be distracted that I need to answer that right away.
Well, this alone right here is a great example. We can't get any more into the moment right now. We're not, it's hard to be in the past. It's hard to be in the future because we're talking to people live right now.
Yeah.
To me, this will always be the happiest I am in the now. I'm not saying just the podcast. I'm just saying to be able to connect and being able to figure out and navigate how you can mine out the now. Whether you're spending time with Lindsley, your kid, legit having a moment where you're talking to her and you're in the moment and enjoying it, and where you can go back and go, fuck, that was a great moment.
Right. And when my kids were in marching band, you have your phone, so you're like, okay, do I film it or do I watch it? And I watched every performance without my phone in my hand, and I relive those. And you know what? Somebody else had their phone. So I go on all the time and I watch the old shows because somebody else did it. But I lived in that moment. My daughter was teasing me about getting a new phone before we go to Colorado because, oh, you want great pictures or whatever. No, you take them. I'm just going to watch the scenery.
I love it. Such good stuff. I do want to end the podcast not so deep, although it gets deep in here. Like a deep dish pizza. Preacher. I'm talking like Jodie Foster again.
Now I'm hungry.
I get so much food here, Beckett.
Okay.
I loaded up for Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be celebrating. So much food.
Okay.
Yeah. Vicky, I did want you to talk a little bit about, you did some research about my house. Now, we talked about stuff last week in my new house. Haven't really talked about it a lot on KVJ. If you wouldn't mind, give a little brief summary of what you felt last week in case people have missed it.
Okay, there are several layers of things going on here. You had a little baby vortex in the room next to us. There's something having to do with an object someone told me, and there's residual.
What does that mean when you say someone told? Brett from Port St. Lucie?
There was a voice that when I came in said object, and when I hear phrases or words, I ignore them to see if they're repeated again. And it kept repeating to me, there's something about an object in this house. So that's going to be part of when we actually do the investigation.
Do you think it's this? This is, Chewy died with this. And I try to get rid of everything from him except for this one, just because this one means a lot to me. Do you think that could be it, or are you feeling you're picking something else up?
You got a lot of things here. Yeah. You outdid yourself, like I said last week. So what I did is I started some of the prelim stuff. Is I did the property records, and they're only available from 1973 to when you bought it, and it changes hands 13 times just in that span. Now I have to go and find the plat books and hope that they're online in order to do 61 through 73, because it was built in 61.
Well, look at this. Thank goodness, Denny's, we have a real estate expert here. In your opinion, is that a lot of turnover for one house?
13, and how many? What was the time?
From 73 to now.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah, it's high.
That's high.
It's high. Yeah,
It's a little high. Now,
I'm thinking about my house in Gardens that we had growing up. I mean, 3 people, maybe 4 in 20 years or 50 years.
Now, one person did die when he owned this house, because the next time it was sold, it was his estate that was selling it. So he was living here. I believe that was in 2001. So I need to do some research to see if I can find. Death certificates are a little bit harder to pull because all these places want money in order to pull the death certificates.
I'll, if we're able to get the details of what happened, and we don't have to blow anyone's spot up, I just want to know the basic details so we know what we're dealing with. I'll pay that fee.
Okay.
I have a pretty sophisticated, not to give all my secrets away, I have a pretty sophisticated background check whole situation.
Yeah, you know what, Beckett? Why don't you actually get on this and really do a deep dive of what the fuck happened here? I have a few neighbors now that no one's giving me details. And the reason why they haven't given me details, people always go, well, why didn't you stick around for the details? The 2 situations that happened where I was talking to someone that said, yeah, I was talking to the neighbor across the street. So it's hearsay.
It's hearsay.
But they're going, they had the cops at the house a lot over there. Or there's stories about your house that you don't know about. That's been 2 different times. Now, I've tried to investigate, those things. I just haven't had time. I haven't been able to line up with them, I should say.
So I had a contact who was able to pull up police records from 2011 to now. So far, nothing suspicious. There was someone here that reported somebody breaking into their vehicle, and then someone who lived at this address reported possibly being a victim of some kind of scam. Now, my contact could only give me from 2011 to now. So we need to go back further. You did have one owner here who lost it to foreclosure. So then their bank took it, and then they sold it to another bank, and then it was sold again.
Vicky with the fucking research, and then you got the hot ass Beckett with the deep dive.
Yeah, we need to talk.
And I have newspapers.com too, so I can search going back to the early 1900s, late 1800s. Like, you just put keywords in, and they've scanned all the old newspapers, and I can pull up. I can search by address, name, event.
Is that different than newspaper.org?
I think so, yeah.
I'm fucking.
If you need me to ask Jeeves anything, I'll look it up.
FG's at Denny's. I'd like that. Whatever you just said, I can't hear anything.
And all of this land was originally purchased by John D. MacArthur, and the 1960 census only had one person on all of this land, and it was a squatter that he allowed to live in this general area. So this house was built during that boom period where he was trying to populate the area known as Palm Beach Gardens.
I'm loving the research. I'm loving it. I just want to double check before we end this thing, because we have been going deep. Got to give the people, some extra content. I did want to... Oh, you know what? This is a local story, and I know it's an older story. We talked about it a little bit last week, but this little girl deserves all the accolades she's getting. Journey Nelson, we talked about it last week. Her mom got attacked in a parking lot. Some fuckface was trying to either jack the car. He attacks the mom. He's punching on her. This 9-year-old girl jumps into action, starts punching on this fuck, and the guy darts away. She chases him off. This is Journey talking about it. I believe she's in West Palm. I know it was a story that happened in West Palm. Here's her talking about that.
I took a little glance at him. Next thing I know, I saw him running towards my mom.
It was, I can't let him get this purse. But once Journey got involved and he pushed her down, I just let the purse go.
Give it up for Journey. That's
Yes.
amazing. I get that it's an older story. We haven't really had time to cover that. It's a local. I would love to talk to her. Maybe that's something we can do in the future. If you're 9 years old, you see this go down, do you think you are able to protect your parents? Do you jump into action, Vicky?
I think so. I'm a Leo, so I think my natural instinct would have been to jump in without thinking.
Beckett, do you know 110% you jump in right away?
Yeah, I think of myself pretty passive. I'm also a Leo. The few times it's gone fisticuffs is because it was nothing really that happened with me. It was something that happened with one of my loved ones. And I just saw, it's only happened a few times in my life. It's almost kind of scary. I just saw red.
And you jumped in?
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
My first memory of that is my cousin who I was really close with. She's like a sister to me. We spent a lot of time together growing up, and we were in the Burger King playground with the balls, and there was some jerk kid that always kept on doing cannonball and like jumping on my cousin. And I remember I just went like red, and like to the point where like it didn't end up in a fight because I just scared everyone with my crazy. You know, I was probably like 11 years old.
Ooh, Beck, I got goosebumps from that. You're a fucking roughneck.
Right?
Generally speaking, though, Leos don't defend themselves first. They'll defend others. My friend, 2 people got off the bus stop. I was going to a different school. They get off the bus stop, and I see that these 2 girls are going to beat up on my friend. I jump in my car, go down the driveway. Long driveway. Go down the driveway, jump out. Never been in a fight in my life. Jump out. I'm sure I looked really intimidating because I was wearing my Lake Worth Christian PE shirt. But just the act of getting out and standing there with that look on my face, they went home.
That's all it took.
Most people, I would say 80% don't want confrontation. 20% want it. They lick it. They love it. They need it. Blood. I want it. But yeah, 80% usually will cower away with a bark. Just good luck when you get that 20%, because you better pack a lunch. It's on.
Yeah, for sure.
20% is the one you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked. We're going to end this podcast. We've been going for almost hour 35 plus. Something like that.
Love it.
Hour 30.
Denny's, anything to add on? Final thoughts?
What happened to TCBY, right? Remember that?
I do.
The country's best yogurt.
Yeah.
Did they even make it anymore?
I think they do.
I don't know.
They have new yogurt. I don't like the new yogurt.
Froyo?
I didn't like the ice cream of the future. I didn't like the new yogurt, Froyo or whatever it is. I like the old school yogurt.
I am not going to lie. I love the fact that I was trying to wrap this shit up, and you're going to a fucking yogurt topic.
I think it's another-
guess
You
what?
hit
No,
me
we're
randomly.
We're going into it. Favorite yogurt flavors of all time, Beckett. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, let's wrap this thing.
Beckett, anything to add for the good people?
Nah, just everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Be safe on the roads and enjoy yourself and find something to be thankful for and be thankful.
Vicky?
Everybody have a great holiday. Just so you know, I will be spending my time reviewing audio because I set up a spirit box and a recorder in your living room.
Yeah,
I saw you doing something.
Real quick to end the podcast. Yeah, I've been having major activity in my living room where I'm seeing, I would say, shadow people doing squats in the corner, Vicky. That's what we're doing. So Vicky's recording all that. Hopefully we'll have some good audio coming up next week. We'll be back on regular time Wednesday, 6 p.m. Do want to thank everyone for supporting it. It's a small group, guys. It's a passionate group, and we fucking love this group because you guys are keeping this podcast afloat. Please share. If you see us put anything out there, if you don't mind, like, comment, share, or not. Tell me to go fuck myself. I love that too. It's still interaction. Have a very peaceful Thanksgiving, everybody. I choked up there. Have a very peaceful Thanksgiving. Turkey, kind of overrated. We love you all, and
Bigfoot is real.
Okay, y'all.
What's that sound? It's aliens, and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens? Well, you should be, because aliens want to probe around in your booty.